Hi, I'm Jenny, and today we are talking about embracing change. So, get ready. I have a lot to say. I have spent my entire life embracing change, and I know that change can be quite difficult for some people. So, let me just share with you what I've learned about embracing change, and maybe you can benefit from that. So, a little backstory. I grew up in a very stable family in a quaint little village in upstate New York, and we traveled to visit family several times a year. We often packed up the car for road trips, and we went down the East Coast to visit various Civil War battlefields and Revolutionary battlefields and the occasional theme park. But, our adventures were pretty humble, and they were rooted in the things that we shared a love of, namely history and family. And nothing really changed. Year after year, we just did the same things, and that was fine. It was a nice childhood. Still, I always felt that I was really different at my core. I was always bursting for something to change, for someone to show up and invite me on a quest across the globe, for something grand and exciting to unfold across my path in life. And yeah, my head was just always somewhere else. I don't know if you guys believe in past lives, but I do. And I never felt like New York was my home or my destiny. I couldn't be convinced that I didn't belong in a castle in the Highlands of Scotland, or in a temple in ancient Egypt, or in a villa covered in frescoes in ancient Rome. Somehow, I don't know, it feels like my soul remembers the adventures and places of my past. And maybe it's instilled a drive in me to adventure and seek out more knowledge about who I am through experiencing life in other places. I think this is why I'm a Sagittarius moon. But anyway, I think in a way I was also kind of repelled from my hometown by the experience of being kind of the black sheep of my family, and living in a home where we just never talked about big dreams or adventures we wanted to take, or the questions that we had about humanity and the universe. Yet these were the things that were just always on my mind and my heart. And I think once I realized that my really deep curiosity about the world was not really going to be fostered in my environment there, that I would need to seek out all of this wisdom and experience in the world. Since then, I have moved every 1 to 3 years since I left my home for the first time in 1999. Yes, you heard that right. I moved across the world when I was 20 to live in Australia for 6 months. And then I spent 12 years as a military spouse. And during that time, I got very practiced at allowing life to take me where it was going to go, and accepting that I was just coming along for the ride. And now that I'm no longer married or tied down by military life, Honestly, I just see incredible futures laid out in front of me. I see another career change in my future, my 4th career change to date, maybe a retirement abroad. I see a lot of adventures, both by myself and with my son, side by side. So you may be wondering why uprooting my life over and over and over again doesn't faze me. The simple answer is that I was built for this, and maybe you weren't. Or maybe you haven't had the opportunity to find out yet. The most important thing I can tell you is that your intuition will not lead you astray. So when there are big changes on the horizon, don't waste all of your time and energy searching for guidance out in the world, asking people who are not you, and don't come with all of your incredible complexities and history and perspective what to do, because they won't know what's right for you. You already know inside. So I like to think of it as becoming the archaeologist of your own soul. I can say that because I have been an archaeologist. You have to excavate the inner workings and desires of your soul to uncover what is in alignment with you and who you are at your core. And once you become practiced at this, you'll start to feel what's right in your body. And you'll also feel what's wrong. Asking your inner knowing what to do is something that I do all the time. And believe me, once you know what it feels like and sounds like, your soul will provide the answer and you will be able to hear it. So how do you do it? I would meditate. I would journal on things like what you truly value, what you want. I would sit in silence and connect with yourself through your breath, with your hand on your heart and start by just asking simple questions of yourself, like, what do I need to know right now? And wait and just listen. A lot of the times, I think, for me at least, a message will pop into my head, and I hear it as a voice in my mind's eye, and it talks lovingly to me. It has a specific way, and the way that it talks to me, I know that this is not my ego or something else. This is me, my higher self, my inner knowing talking to me. So I seek guidance from myself. I also ask my body whether things are right or wrong, and I wait for it to let me know how it feels. In my body, yes is one sensation, and no is different. And so yes feels like incredibly yes, and like so yes that I can't miss it. And no feels so incredibly no that within seconds I have the answer to any question that I ask my body. Most of the time. It's not fail-safe. Sometimes it's confusing. Sometimes there isn't a straight answer. But it's a good place to start and to start getting in tune with your intuition and your body and how to tell when you are really feeling aligned with something and when you aren't. The next step is to trust yourself, to embrace the yeses with your whole heart and jump into them with the confidence that you will be okay no matter what happens. And I know that that is easier said than done, but focusing on the future when thinking about upcoming changes and not ruminating on the past or the what ifs in life will help you approach the future with positive, forward-thinking momentum. So be intentional about your thoughts. Visualize the outcome that you want. Imagine the good things that could come from it and allow yourself to feel good in that potentiality and in those possibilities. Even if what you're changing may be scary or maybe producing less than enthusiastic reactions from other people in your life, you're actually just not responsible for their experience. So I know it's hard. I know we all want to please the people in our life and we worry so much about what they will think about us, but you are not responsible for their experience, only your own experience. It's also going to help you to understand the unique quirks and needs and tendencies that are ingrained in you on a soul level. Take some time to go in depth on self-discovery tools like your astrological chart, your human design, your numerology. These are tunes for exploring what comes naturally to you, what are your natural talents, what your needs are, how you function best, what may be a greater calling or a purpose for you. I know when I started diving into astrology and human design, my entire perspective on life changed. I did my own research, of course, as well, but I also paid to have readings with trusted experts that helped unpack all of the nuances of my charts and broke them down into more digestible takeaways. And after a couple of months of study, I had really made some breakthroughs that explained my entire life, all of my relationships, my patterns, my struggles, needs that I have that I never realized were essential to my well-being before. And I feel like I know myself so much better now that reaching for my authentic feelings about things or changes on the horizon is so much easier because I know that I can trust where they're coming from and I can feel more intuitively if something is right for me or not. So this is really important to getting to a place where you can really recognize what is you and your authentic belief or need or feeling about something versus other people's and what other people have told you in the past or experiences that you've heard about happening to other people. We get conditioned by society a lot of the time to believe certain ways or certain things are true when they do not have to be true for you and they do not have to be true for anyone, but we tend to believe things that we're told. So it's a process of really diving deep and figuring out who you really are and how you really think and feel. But yeah, there's a lot of tools to help you in that journey. I believe that self-reflection practices are really essential to being able to integrate your shadows and fears as well. And if there's one thing I think we can all agree on, it's that if you are someone who resists or struggles with change, your real issue is fear. So you've got to explore your fear. And I know it's hard. I know we'd all rather ignore it and just stay in the patterns that make us feel safe. But often the problem with that is that those patterns are actually just your ego and your ego is running the show. It decided ages ago what safe meant for you, and it's trying to keep you from changing, even if that means that you continue unfulfilling or even destructive patterns in your life. How many of us became people pleasers in our youth and have continued to judge every decision in our lives by whether or not other people will approve of it? We continue this behavior because we learned at some point that maybe it got us love or validation or caretaking that we desperately needed as kids. And our ego continues to tell us that if we did something differently, like made the decision to move to Europe and try to live out our secret dream of being a digital nomad, that we would suffer as a result, that we could lose love and support from the people in our lives. Maybe we could end up on our own. We could end up failing miserably. We could lose the safety of the life that we have now. So we better not do that. We better shove that dream, just shove it right back in a drawer and never open it. Better to just stay safe. Yeah, this is the power of fear and ego and an unexamined psyche. I know, I am not saying that it's easy to open the drawer and work out why you're scared to do something. But just think about the fact that if you are scared to do something, that means that your fear is fighting against something. And what's that? It's the potential of what could be. So does that potential feel good to you to explore? If you decided to try and stay open and curious about it for a minute, and you thought about that potential, does it feel good? Could it fill you with excitement? That's what's on the other side of fear. And you have to examine what's on the other side of fear before deciding if it's worth pursuing. So if what's on the other side is not meant for you, your intuition could help you sense that. So remember, we got to get in charge with our intuition, right? Sometimes we resist changes because they're forced on us, and we don't want them or resonate with what that would mean in our lives. And that is also valid. You don't always have to go after every single change coming your way. Sometimes they're not right for us, but you have to bring all of it out into the open before you can decide how to proceed with it. A lot of the times we just say no right off the bat to something without ever really exploring that possibility. So if the change is something that you think that you want, but you're too scared to pursue it, some things I recommend are journaling about why you're scared of this and really break it down. A great journaling prompt to work on something that you want to do or a change you want to make that you are resisting because you're probably scared is to journal, I can't do this thing because I'm scared of blank, whatever it is. And then ask yourself, why is that? Why are you scared of blank? Well, if I did blank, blah, blah, blah would happen. And why is that? Why is that? And why is that? You have to keep asking why until you have distilled down to the very core of the wound that is keeping you afraid. And these wounds are often something that happens in childhood that made you feel like you had to be or believe or behave a certain way, or that you could not be or believe or behave a certain way. And what's the story that you've developed in your life to deal with this wound? This story is probably something that you've told yourself your entire life to compensate for the wound. This is fine. We all have these stories, but you need to ask yourself, what is the story about this fear? And what would it mean if the story weren't true? So I'll give you an example from my life to show you how we might do this. So for example, I have a core wound around feeling incapable and weak. The story I developed in my youth is that no one believes that I'm strong or capable to do things on my own or succeed in life without help. And the results of this story in my life have caused me to often seek safety in relationships with people who can take care of me. But it also makes me hyper independent because this is an insecurity that I might actually be weak or incapable. And so this insecurity also makes me want to prove people wrong and show them that I can do everything on my own and I don't need help. So I'm independent. I'm hyper independent, but I also am afraid to not be in a relationship with someone who could support me and make sure that I'm okay if I do fail to be capable of taking care of myself. And so these behaviors are both underpinned by the fear that my story is true. It's a tough set of beliefs and behaviors to rectify. So I ask myself, what if it weren't true? What if the belief that I accepted as a child that I was weak and incapable was not actually true? Why does it have to be true? I was a child. I didn't understand very much, except for how certain people made me feel at the time. When you think about it, did the people who made me feel this way do it on purpose? Did they mean to make me feel this way? In my case, I don't actually think so. Was it actually based on any type of like objective truth? Also, no. Besides the fact that I was a child, I probably couldn't do very much because I didn't know how. Also, I looked at like, how have I lived my life since then? Have I lived my life as a weak and incapable person? Have I proved this to be true by my examples of how I've lived my life? Hell no! Not at all. I am brave, I am resilient, I am strong, I am capable of so much more than I ever realized. And the proof of that is in the life that I've lived. So the honest truth, when I really examined that core wound that I had, was that the story that I had made up about it was fucking bullshit. So recognizing this, allowing this to be my new truth, and sending my old belief away with gratitude for maybe how it helped keep me safe at certain points in my life, but we don't need you anymore. We're done with you. Thank you. Be on your way. Releasing that old belief made space for a new reality. And this new reality was the knowledge that I actually am strong and capable. There is no buts, no doubts, no fear that this is somehow going to be proven wrong in my life because I have the evidence that it is true. So when facing changes now, these days, instead of my mind hearing that old story and filling me with fear and doubt about whether I'm capable of doing something or making the change that I want to make, now I'm able to face it with more confidence and trust that I will be able to figure it out and I'll be okay. It is definitely a process, of course. It's not perfect, but this change has been huge in helping me face tremendous changes in my life over the last few years, such as going through a divorce at 38 years old. That can really shake you. Even if you think at that point in your life that you've got things figured out, you're pretty stable, you're a successful person, the fears of separating after 12 years of marriage and suddenly becoming single will pounce on you the second you realize that you have to figure everything out on your own from now on. And so your fears ask you, will you be okay? Will you be able to make ends meet? Will you be able to provide for yourself and your child? Will you be able to stay in your home, be the head of the household for yourself? There's just endless questions that all have the potential to put you into this tailspin of fear and doubt and hopelessness. But I was able to look at everything that I had done up to that point in my life and deduce from the evidence that I was strong as hell, and I was smart, and I had a support system and ingenuity, and I had the will to figure all of it out. So it's not that I didn't have fear, it's that once I examined the fear in the context of my limiting beliefs about myself and the stories I had created to fight for those limitations, the fear lost all of its power. It was replaced by my new story, a story about a woman who could get through whatever came her way and be okay in the end. And that new story gave me the confidence to make big changes, to embrace the growth that I was going to experience on that journey, and to be able to say with 100% certainty that I would be okay no matter what. So, believe me, I know that change is hard. But if you can, tune into your intuition, use tools to help understand yourself better and your needs better, and examine the fear that may be holding you back from making those changes. You can make more empowered and authentic decisions about your life and face the future with hope and confidence that whatever lies ahead could be happening to change you for the better. This is what I have found in my life, and anytime that I have been scared of a change that was ahead of me, I have been able to reach down and find that strength at my core to help me leap into it. And there's a lot of reasons why that was easier for me than maybe other people. I certainly had a lot of privilege in my life and a lot of support. But what I've discovered, especially the last few years, is that there are ways that you can go about figuring out how to trust yourself when you're making these decisions and when you're facing changes, to trust and believe in yourself. And I think the more you practice it, maybe even just starting with small changes and working your way up to maybe the big change that you've been scared to make in your life for a long time, you'll get to a place where you can really trust in your soul that you are doing the right thing and that you'll be all right. And yeah, that can make a huge difference in how you live the entire rest of your life. So it's a journey, but you can get there. I believe in you. All right. Thank you for joining me today to talk about embracing change. I'm Jenny, and I'll see you next time.